Okay, I think I'm actually going to get started just a little early. All right, switch over to just chatting. Hey guys, how's your weekend going so far? Hopefully it's better than VTuber Twitter has been this week. Holy shit. Okay, I'm basically going to be starting off stream with like talking with a Warhammer painting channel. They had some questions. It's going pretty good for me. Glad to hear it's going well for you, Hero. But yeah, I'm starting off with a conversation of a Warhammer painting channel. That's going to be a fun one. And then we'll just see whatever I feel the mood to get up to later. Okay, let's see how this goes.
Hello.
Howdy. Howdy, howdy. How is it going?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. How's things going with you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Been a pretty slow morning for me. It's been pretty nice, actually.
That's good. It's always good. So, we're here today to talk about Warhammer.
Yeah. So, would you like to introduce yourself to my chat? Why is it not showing up on screen?
No worries. My name's Jim, and I run the channel Jim's Tabletop Wargaming, where we cover everything from Warhammer to X-Wing and any other tabletop games that really I'm interested in, mostly science fiction stuff, to be honest.
Good to know. I'm pretty sure there should be more than a handful of people interested in checking that stuff out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone loves science fiction.
It is like so goddamn common. So, did you have anywhere specific you wanted to start?
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is the reason why I reached out to you in the first place was because I originally came across your channel looking at a couple of your older videos. I got recommended the gatekeeping one, and I saw that there was quite a lot of like backlash to that in the comments, and I think I have a reason for why that might be. There was kind of like a big sort of discourse going on within the Warhammer community at the moment around the topic of gatekeeping. So I know your video was initially, or your stream was initially aimed at targeting a few people from a prior video. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the topic of gatekeeping within Warhammer 40k because at the moment it is, it's kind of a front and center issue on some of the social platforms.
Yeah, Warhammer's pretty popular, pretty well known. Yeah, that gatekeeper video was kind of a response to the backlash I kind of got, so to speak. That first video I was recommended by a viewer to check out. Hey, this person has a 40 lessons from Warhammer, and then I go and check it out, and it's like, oh, this is actually my kind of content to react to. Then that got picked up by the YouTube algorithm, and well, it gets pushed out to a whole bunch of people, and a lot of people really disagreed.
Yeah, I think with like that 40 lessons from Warhammer video, I watched it, and quite honestly, I don't know what the person was going for with that video, to be completely honest with you. There was a lot of kind of lessons there that felt like almost like they had reached a bit too far to try and get like the very surface level things from it and then input their own sort of like, it seemed like Christian views or religious views on top of that as well. So there was a lot there that I would have said there were much better lessons to take away from 40k than what was listed in that 40 lessons video by a long way. Because the whole the whole universe being satire, as you said in the last Gatekeeping video, I think it gets lost on some people, especially because a lot of the novels and things, when you dig deep into them, there's a lot of kind of missed opportunities, and people are somewhat aware that the systems that they're in aren't exactly great, or they're not functioning the way that they suppose they are. Like the Emperor doing not so nice things, that like erasing people's memories the second there's any kind of dissent. And yeah, I think some people just kind of see 40k and they go, "Oh yeah, look, it's this horrible sort of like thing," and they don't kind of like go any deeper into the surface, because there are quite a lot of other lessons that you could take away from it. Most importantly, it's hubris and stuff like that. Just beware of like poisonous ideas and things, or propaganda, for instance, because the whole of the universe of 40k is just filled with propaganda from all sides.
Oh yeah, literally. Like, I'm the type of person that really, I enjoy the dark, grimdark setting of it, but I can also recognize that, oh hey, these ideologies lead to very problematic extremes if you really flesh them out, kind of thing.
Exactly, and that leads into sort of the gatekeeping thing that's been going on within 40k at the moment, because most people can see 40k as the British satire that it is. It's an idea of taking a lot of old school kind of like history, because it was originally done by like history students or history majors, with the people who originally wrote it. So they take a lot of those ideas of the darkest parts of human history and they put it in a sci-fi setting. They cover it with all the usual sci-fi tropes that they've nicked from all over the show, all over pop culture, and they just put it in there. They mix it all together and go, look, this is a horrible backdrop. It's the worst possible backdrop we could come up with, but that explains why there's only war, and it allows us to have that conflict that never ends. And you don't need to sort of justify a position or anything in there. It's just literally, we've created a place for mindless warfare, and in the background there is all this deep nuance and everything to it that you can dive into if you want to, but at its core it's just there because it's cool. The models are cool. The whole idea of the struggle against these immeasurable odds and just the evils of the galaxy that they're in is just unbelievably cool. And of course, that draws in a lot of people. And the gatekeeping side of that's coming in because we're seeing people, as you say, tourists into sort of like the universe of 40k, people coming in with not really much of an understanding, but wanting to cash in possibly on the whole like rise of its popularity. And we see people coming in with some really bizarre takes, like that 40 lessons video, and also we've seen some things on like Twitter and other places where people are coming in and saying, "Oh well, Warhammer 40k is like for fascists or something," because it's filled with all of these horrible things, and it just seems like the idea, the satire of it, just goes over their heads. It's there to frame this warfare place so we can play the game more than it is anything else.
Yeah, like, I've got my own Black Templar army, and I would never want to join the Black Templars. I would never want to be a part of them. But in that setting, you wouldn't get that choice. So at least I like the aesthetic of them. They look cool. But
Oh no.
holy shit, they're crusades.
Yeah, I mean it's that whole thing of it just being absolutely like it's the rule of cool. And the rule of cool is at the heart of the 40k hobby. If it's cool, do it. And with that kind of stuff, it might be dark and the settings behind it might be dark, but we put that to one side because it's just so cool. You see these guys in like big power armor, punching monsters and demons and stuff to death, and exercising monsters with faith and all this other stuff, and it just goes back to old stories and old sort of like legends and things, that just really kind of like gets you involved, and there's a little bit in there for everybody. So I've got a lot of people into 40k because people see me painting the stuff. A lot of people kind of think about it like, I think the general population kind of see Warhammer as like sweaty nerds tabletop game filled with too much math and overcomplicated rules. But then they kind of see the other aspects of it, where it's just like airfix kits. You can put models together. and the painting side of things, especially. I found that a lot of people, even if they don't know anything about Warhammer 40k, will definitely take up the painting side of things because it's just another creative medium, and it's really just kind of for beginners anyway. It's like a 3D version of painting by numbers, or keeping it between the lines and everything. But it's not a universe you'd want to be a part of. Your your survival would be measured in hours, not in years.
Yeah. Like, people see that, oh, there's so many space marines, and if I was in that universe, I would probably be a space marine, and odds are no. Because there's like trillions of humans, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like completely innumerable the amount of people that are in the universe, and it must only be getting worse because my understanding of like how chaos kind of reflects off of like the humans and Eldari. Um, humans being as prolific as they are in the universe of 40k is part of the reason why it is as horrible as it is. But yeah, it's just even the trials you have to go through to become an Astartes are just ridiculous. In some of the books, it's just like pushing yourself past limits. We've seen in some of the shorts that they're now doing in the Warhammer Plus, which is like their little paid for streaming thing. We're seeing in those like the trials that they were going through to initiate Space Wolves were just like ridiculous. It's like these half naked guys running around a frozen tundra killing monsters that were like twice their size and swimming through ice lakes and stuff. And people are like placing bets on whether they'll actually live. It's just like, yeah, I think to be honest with you, if it came down to it, I don't even think I could run for a bus, let alone run through an ice waste. So yeah, I don't think I think I would end up a servitor in that world, unfortunately.
Honestly, most people would.
Yeah, to think otherwise would just be, wishful thinking at that point.
Yeah, it's really what a lot of it boils down to. It's people seeing the really cool stuff and then thinking, "Oh yeah, I could totally do that." When in reality, the majority of people who do think that wouldn't end up getting a nice place.
No, unfortunately not. So you said you do Black Templars. What
Yes.
made you pick them up?
Honestly, I saw some pretty cool pictures of Space Marines when I was first getting into it, and well, I was seeing like all the different armies my buddy
Hmm.
was showing me, and the Black Templar just stood out to me. It's like a very basic color scheme, so to speak, but I love that the dark parts of it, like the black, really helps the other parts pop. It's just aesthetically pleasing to me.
Yeah, it's got that really nice black and white kind of, as you say, visually striking appearance to it, especially because they've got, as you say, crusade stuff on them, so they tend to have a lot more of that like churchy feel compared to some of the other factions and things like that. And it really does. They are one of the factions that does specifically encapsulate a lot of what the Imperium has kind of fallen into in the 41st millennium. So they are very much like I think a missed opportunity for poster boys for 40k, to be honest with you, because I don't think the
Honestly, I
Ultramarines quite there.
agree. I think 40k would have done at least a bit better if they had Black Templar instead of the Ultramarines.
Yeah, I agree with that because the Ultramarines are quite a I don't want to say boring, but yeah, kind of skirting around just saying the word boring at this point. There's a fair amount of lore behind them, but I think for a large portion of the like audience, especially like people who got into it quite a while ago, um, we had I think it might have been, was it sixth edition or somewhere around there? There was a codex release from Matt Ward, and he rewrote the Ultramarines to be basically like the Mary Sue chapter of Warhammer 40k, and then he went on to do the same thing with Grey Knights, and he kind of ruined a lot of the love that they had for him at that point because it was just like Marnius Calgar, head Ultramarine, can do no wrong, and now Games Workshop having to go back and kind of not retcon it, but they're trying to correct it and be like, yeah, he lied about some stuff. So people don't think he's as powerful as Matt Ward tried to make him out to be.
I'm gonna be honest. When people do call me a tourist, they're partially right because I do not know the lore as much as a lot of people. I'm like what I think of the 40K community broadly. It's like a friend of mine described it really well the other day. 40% see it as the Uber world kind of thing, the best life. 40% are just actually no, it's 40% were Nazis essentially. 40% were the weirdest queers you've ever known, and 20% are painting is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've never encountered so much like the Nazi side of it, but I think it really does probably depend on the country that you live in as well.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff definitely doesn't go down so well here in the UK, especially not in like a hobby community. Well, when we were growing up and stuff, along with like 40K, because it was my brother who initially got me into 40K when I was like maybe like 9 or 10, and he'd been doing it since Rogue Trader when it was like first released, and yeah, pretty much everybody in the scene for Warhammer 40K from then up until now in the UK is uh, slightly large, neckbeard nerd wearing a metal band t-shirt. And it has never changed. That includes me. That includes all of my friends. We all look like that. We all fit that stereotype. So it's never been an unwelcoming community. You get the odd occasional person who's a bit salty during a game, or you get someone who might have like, that they might not like certain people's homebrew stuff or whatever. There's those kind of like little bits of friction here or there, but I've never really encountered like Nazis and stuff like that within the game. It feels like this must be happening somewhere else. Because I know there was that one instance of someone walking into a tournament wearing swastikas, and I think that was somewhere in Europe, but I can't remember where, and I don't want to just randomly guess. But I don't think that was it.
I'm not exactly sure where that happened either. I just know that was one of the, or at least I think that was one of the inciting incidents of why Games Workshop put out that statement of 40K is satire.
Yeah, I think for sure it definitely had to be. There was around that time, there was already sort of eyes on it. Because the way I remember it is there was some kind of drama going on with Arch Warhammer, because I know he had to change his name to Arch. He upset a bunch of like the devs behind the like Total War games and stuff like that.
I
I think
believe
he
I
was,
heard of that.
yeah, I think he was complaining about like sexualization being removed or something from the game. I think it was just like a couple of PNGs or something of like revealing character art was removed or something stupid like that, and he was up in arms about it. But he usually gets
Huh.
up in arms about stupid stuff. So he was sort of like running his mouth about things. There were articles coming out saying, "Oh, should Warhammer 40K be more inclusive? Like in its setting, be more inclusive and have like more diversity?" And again, I think it misses the point of it being a satire. The fan base should be a diverse group, but in universe, it makes less sense because we're making fun of this horrible thing. It doesn't make sense to add real world politics, like modern day politics, into the universe itself. Um, and all this stuff was all coming up, and of course, people were kind of going, "Wait, are there people playing it Nazis?" And then someone literally turns up into a game wearing swastikas, and the
Yeah.
rest of the players were like, "Oh God, we don't want to engage with this guy." But he's here, and they were trying to find any way they could to get rid of him. That's my understanding. Is they didn't actually have anything specifically within the tournament rules to disqualify this guy because there wasn't anything about offensive articles of clothing or anything like that. So they ended up having to just let it slide, even though everybody generally was not pleased with that. And that's, I think, what led to that coming out. Was already there was a bit of back and forth on both sides of people saying, well, it should be more inclusive, and other people, straight up wearing swastikas. And Games Workshop was just kind of like, straight in the middle. It's a parody. It's satire. We don't want to change it. We also don't want these people in here. We don't want people in here causing problems because, a divided community like that is not a good community. And you certainly don't sell products or, create a welcoming environment by catering to people on that either extreme. You're never going to get anything done that way because it's just going to be a horrible, toxic cesspit. And you see it coming when you do hear about these people, turning up to these tournaments with those kind of ideals, or like interacting with the community with those kinds of ideals. They do generally seem to be terrible people.
Me personally, I don't wanna. Well, obviously, I don't want to spend time with Nazis, especially if
No.
they're going to be wearing an armband. I would not exactly be as friendly as I am to most people. That
No.
said, I I don't personally think I want to change any of this setting, but I think there could be an argument made that like gay people just exist, trans people just exist in the 40K universe, even if they're not directly named characters, kind of thing. I would still think they would largely, broadly exist. It's just not at all an issue for like the Empire or the Imperium, because they have bigger things to worry about than gay people. They got murder zombies. They got robot zombies. They got cannibalistic xenomorphs, essentially. They've got the angriest fungi you've ever known. They got bigger issues than like what the citizens are doing, unless that what they're doing is directly powering up the chaos gods. And you'd have to really make the argument that gay activity would be supporting the chaos gods. And even then, that is pushing modern politics, I will go with, into the universe.
Yeah, I think the Games Workshop has been very keen to kind of like reel in discussions around sort of like sex within the universe, purely because I think it's just one of those avenues they don't want to go down.
Yeah, like even Slaanesh going down that rabbit hole, it involves a lot of inflicting pain as well. And like personally, I am a very lewd person, IRL, sometimes online. But I don't really want to sell a Nash army because I don't really get any gratification off of physical harm done to other people. That's honestly what keeps me away from Slaanesh. But I make my jokes.
I mean, in the book Fulgrim, there's quite an interesting sort of like scenes around sort of like falling to Slaanesh. And a lot of it really boiled down to an unchecked pursuit of perfection in the arts. So a lot of that book really revolves around not just Fulgrim himself and his chapter, but the humans that they brought along with them, like the people who were sort of archiving their achievements and immortalizing them in great works of art, great works of poetry, music, and stuff like that. And they do unfortunately come across Slaanesh, or a Slaaneshi temple, and it slowly over the course of the books drives them to horrible ends. So it starts off just them trying to, encapture this really beautiful temple they've seen. And then it literally ends with, spoilers by the way for the book, it ends up with a giant orgy in a theatre involving lots of people also ripping each other limb from limb.
You had me at the first part, lost me at the second.
Yeah, it just goes into like this big like cacophony of horror that ends up spewing forth demons and stuff. And they're like, "Yep, that's perfection. That was what we were going for." But it's kind of like a cautionary tale of the pursuit of perfection, because the perfection that they think they've achieved ends up being like a false one. yeah, the people who look upon them end up being repulsed by them rather than enraptured by them. So it's one of those things where it's just almost an illusion to these people.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So how long have you been in the hobby? Because I know you said you see yourself as a bit of a tourist, but to be honest with you, the iceberg of 40k is huge. Uh, even
Yeah,
myself, I
like
don't
in
know
in
that much about.
terms of being a tourist, I don't really know all of the different lore. I loosely know about the different factions and stuff.
Hmm.
And honestly, my first model that I ever painted, I want to say 2006.
Okay.
I haven't really done any gaming with it. There used to be a Games Workshop relatively close to where I lived, so I was able to go check it out. These days, there's only one Games Workshop left in the entire greater area of the city I live in on the west coast of
Yeah.
Canada. So it's a bit of a longer trek out there. Usually worth it. But yeah,
Uh,
I've been loosely in the fandom since like I want to say 2006.
that's fair. That's respectable. Yeah. I mean, with like, it seems to be a very common thing within Warhammer that you kind of like come and go from the hobby because I do the same thing, and everyone I know is basically the same sort of boat. We come into it as like I started like I say when I was about like 9, and I'm in my 30s now, so it's been quite a while. But I tend to go through phases where I'll come into the hobby, do a bit of painting, maybe I'll play a game or two, and then we go straight back to like something else. I'll be a game system, or maybe I'll take up like video games for a while and I'll completely forget about it, or I'll have another hobby, and then something will catch my eye, like maybe there's a new release, or
Like
like
Dark
a new
Tide.
bit of lore. Yeah, it's like my reason for coming back into it now because I stopped doing Warhammer for a couple of years right after I started the channel because I was doing some like bits in the background with my own sort of like personal life. And what's made me come back to it in a big way now is we've had the release of 10th edition, and the last edition of 40k was just like pretty bad from my point of view, in like terms of getting to grips with all of the rules because it was very bloated. So when they brought out the new rule set and it was a lot more simplified, I was like, oh, good, it's kind of going back to normality. So I was happy to jump back in. But I don't play that many games. I've probably had like even in over all of those years, I probably only had a handful of games because it mostly comes down to sort of like the painting and the like sculpting and stuff of the models and doing dioramas and bits of scenery and stuff for them. I like the creative aspect of it um, more
Oh
than the
yeah,
actual game.
absolutely. That is definitely my favorite part of the tabletop. Mostly because I haven't even learned or played the tabletop before. It's just been really fun to paint up my different models and even talk with my friends who also paint up the models. We haven't really played together, but we just love really enthusing about, oh, this has been a bit of a challenge for me to make this Primarch. And then my buddy's like, oh, yeah, I know the feeling. I was just finishing up my Adeptus Mechanicus models. And it's like, oh my god, my friend is much better than I am. But everybody starts somewhere, and I think mine are pretty serviceable.
Yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. I mean, you're absolutely right. When you look at sort of like your first models up until like what you do now and stuff, you see a huge change per model. I see it every time I do something new. I'm putting more and more effort into like the painting I'm doing because I'm trying to sort of put it out there and show people it. So there's a lot more thought going in, and I'm finding that each time I do a new model, I'm like, hey, this is my new favorite model now because it's one that I've taken all of the previous things I've learned. And when I look back at like I've dug through boxes of my old stuff and got out a couple of like the first models I painted, which was like a little Dark Eldar jet bike. Um, yeah, I looked at it and was like, in my mind, it was this amazingly painted thing because I was a child when I painted it. and I got it out, and it was just like really thick, sloppy paint, not in the lines or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, we definitely grow as it goes along. So stuff like that is it's just having pride in it. It doesn't need to win a golden demon or like a Slayer sword or any of those competitions. It just needs to be something you've made, something that you're happy with, and something that you can say, "Hey, look, I did this. This is my talent right here."
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I do a little more model building than just 40K. I also
Hmm.
have Gundam models that I like to build, and a couple of times now I have finished like a custom Gundam, where I took the skills I learned while painting up and building my Space Marines, transfer
Hmm.
that into making a completely unique Gundam. And I think a lot of people don't actually realize that just working on the models can give you a lot of transferable skills into potentially other hobby areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's you touched on a good thing there. Actually, I do a little bit of Gundam as well.
Nice.
I've never actually watched Gundam. I only watched about half, like maybe the first hour of one of the first movies, like the really old movie. Um,
Ah,
but I
the
got
compilation movies.
yes, yeah.
I honestly, I know way more about Gundam than I know about 40K.
Then you got me at a loss for that one because I know nothing about Gundam. The only thing I know is I got two model kits from Gundam to try and learn, well, just to see what they were like, and it was the ball, the little ball robot thing, well, ball mech thing with the
Yeah, it's literally
artillery
called
beam.
a ball.
Yeah, that that makes sense. I think the ball was the only bit of English on the box when I got it, so that's all I remember from that one. And the other one was a red guy. I think he was like a bad guy. It was all like a shiny metallic plastic painting they'd done on it. Um, I don't think I've got any pictures of it actually, but it's some really shiny red dude. I think he was the bad guy from one of the series of Gundams. Um,
Making me think. First thought is Sharzaku, which is like a red.
I think the name Zaku came up, but that might actually just be. Isn't it just Zaku like a type of Gundams or something?
It is the mass-produced mobile suit of the enemy faction, essentially, of the main series.
Ah,
And
right.
like the default look of it is green, but this guy Shar, who is like um a super cool dude in the Xeon army, got his own red custom one, and it was like 3 times faster.
Ah, right. It's not that one because I've just looked it up.
Then the
Red.
second thought is gun cannon, where it's like a
Gun.
red suit with 2 shoulder-mounted cannons.
Oh, here we go. It's I think it. Oh God, what is this? I'm looking at a Pinterest thing, but it's in Japanese. Can I save the image? Oh no, Pinterest. You want me to log in? I'm not doing that. What is
Rude
it?
Pinterest.
It says, is it Shinanju?
Oh, this Sinanju. That is a really good one from Gundam Unicorn series.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I got.
Very, very top tier taste with that one.
Yeah, the kit's alright. The only problem I found with it was where they had like already primed it with that shiny red coat. The clipping points where you removed like from the sprue tended to have just a little bit of like matte coating to it where it didn't quite shine up. But I've found a series of like metallic paints from a company called Turbo Dog, and there's one that looks very similar to that color. So eventually, I will get round to airbrushing those mistakes over. But yeah, those
Honestly,
are the
that
kind of things I got to do.
That's what scares me about getting metallic coated models, because they are so easy to make like a mistake look huge on the model itself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I find that with some of those mistakes, if you've got the time to sort of like try and like research it and fix the issue, it can teach you some new like tricks. Because I've had that with a few things where it'll be like I'll mess up a model like really badly because I've had like some stupid idea on an effect I want to do, and then I'm trying to find ways to rectify it and kind of pull it back from where it is without having to repaint the whole thing, and end up kind of getting like a new skill or something in the process. So sometimes mistakes are worth making.
They are learning experiences.
Yeah,
But we did
absolutely.
kind of get a little off topic there.
That's fine. So yeah, you said you've been in it for a while. Um, have you had any sort of like bizarre experiences within the 40k sort of like community, like going to games workshops and stuff like that? Was there anything particularly stand out that was like negative? Because I've spoken to some like women within the community, and they've said that they normally have at least one horror story of visiting a games workshop. Did you have any sort of like any stories like that at all?
Well, when I was first visiting Games Workshop, I was male presenting, so I didn't really have any of that issue. And to be honest, I've only visited one Games Workshop ever since I did start my transition. And that time it was fine. There was no real issue. I don't personally have a horror story.
Oh,
I
fair
also
enough.
I also don't regularly go to the Games Workshop.
That's completely fair. I don't think you could pay me enough money to go into a games workshop these days.
Honestly, I do kind of miss it. It's just at least an hour's commute for me to go check out Games Workshop. And I don't really want to do that unless I know what I'm buying and I know that they have it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, my complaints with Games Workshop is that I don't want to sort of like single out a particular Games Workshop for this behavior, so I won't specify which store it is. But I tend to go for independent hobby stores as they tend to have discounts on products here, and also they tend to be a much better gaming environment. And there's other, like third-party stuff there, and tools that Games Workshop now doesn't have or doesn't sell. And one of the biggest problems I've always had with Games Workshop is they jump straight down your throat the second you walk in, and they don't leave you alone. And it's so irritating because I didn't always used to be sort of like more outgoing when I was like younger. I was a very sort of like nervous, anxious kind of person. So when I'm going into a shop to buy something and someone comes out of nowhere and it's just like, "Hey, buddy, what are you doing?" I'm just like freaking out about it. And yeah, they still do it to this day. I went in there to get some paint once, and some guy wouldn't leave me alone. He was just asking me all these questions, and I genuinely just had to turn to him and say, "Hey, uh, can you like go away? I'm just trying to look." I'm going to buy stuff. I'm going to put this stuff at the till, so I'm going to buy it. But leave me alone because I'm not enjoying this. And he did. But
I,
yeah,
I
it's
wonder
not.
if that's a cultural thing because, like, out here in Canada at least, we don't really get that. When I've walked into like hobby stores or game stores or whatever store I'm going into at the time, usually it's just somebody saying, "Hey, how's it going? Are you looking for anything specific?" "No, I'm just browsing." "Okay, let me know if you need anything." And then they just let me do my thing.
No, unfortunately, it's like Lord Zealous says in your chat there. I recognize that name. I've seen you before. Yeah, the they're trying unfortunately to sell you the plastic crack as quickly as possible and get you moving. And unfortunately, they do try and push it very hard. Um, we've had other issues with Games Workshop as well, like the actual physical stores. One of my friends who was quite crazy into the competitive side of things had a demon army, and his centerpiece model was one from Forge World. You familiar with Forge World?
Loosely.
So it's been sort of like brought back into Games Workshop, but it was technically Games Workshop's like other kind of company that sold resin large scale models, and it's the stuff that sells those ridiculous titans that are the size of, you know, a child, for thousands of
Oh,
pounds.
that's where you get them.
Yeah, you get them on Forge, or you used to get them on Forgewell, but now Games Workshop has changed its website. They're all on just one page now. But the resin
Oh, okay.
ones are denoted with like a 15 plus. Don't buy this because it's crazy hard to put together kind of symbol. Um, but yeah, that kind of stuff was Games Workshop's products, and he had a big demon. I remember seeing it when we played a game, and it was massive. It was impressive, but it has this really flimsy whip, and it's a huge whip made of resin, and of course it broke.
Oh,
And
that's unfortunate.
yeah, but there's a technique called pinning where we can just put a little rod in there, and then glue it together, and just have the rod as the support in between. And
Just need the
he
right
went
pin vise size for that. Personally, I
exactly.
would rather have like an actual wire to use as a whip.
Yeah, I think in this case it would probably have been better if there was some kind of like framework inside, considering how thin the resin ends up being on details like that. But going into Games Workshop to ask advice on how to pin something because he didn't know how to do it, he'd never done it before. Because I think he like started collecting after like metal was a big thing, and we all had to pin metal models back in the day. But he went into Games Workshop to ask for that advice, and they don't sell a tool for it. They weren't happy that he had a Forge World model, even though it's their own products. And yeah, they got very shirty with him about it. And yeah, he was like, "Well, screw you guys," and he went into a third party store, and they went, "Yeah, no worries." Sold him the tools, showed him how to use them. Um, so yeah, there's lots of horror stories that come out of like my local Games Workshop, so I'd never go in there.
That's honestly totally fair. You did actually remind me of something. It's not a horror story, it's a wholesome story kind of thing of
Hmm.
like when I was younger, first starting to get into the fandom broadly, and I did go down to my local games workshop. They actually had like a unrelated, they had a big like 8 foot tall space marine statue for the ultramarines. Loved it. Love that was like one of the big reasons I went there. But on one occasion they actually showed us how to use a hot wire, as well as gave us some styrofoam. Here, give it a try. So we could actually get used to that, actually get some kind of idea of what it takes to build terrain kind of thing. Like they were happy to show me the ropes. So
Hmm.
it's actually kind of bizarre to me that there are some cases where they're just frustrating for newcomers, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's the corporate side of it has become a bit of a problem for Games Workshop, and it is something I think they're trying to reel back on a little bit now, because they've had to release a fair amount of things like incentives for people to come into store, like discounts on multiple purchases of like paints, and they give like away free models and stuff. They do still, as far as I'm aware, do like teaching people how to play and paint and stuff like that. But they went away from from when I was a kid, they've completely gone away from this idea that you can create your own stuff, which was a big part of the hobby for me because pretty much my whole family are kind of like creative type people. You know, my parents, my dad used to do like model boats and like dioramas and stuff. My brother used to do Warhammer. My sister was a photographer. It was all these like really cool creative things. The whole point was to take something, put your own spin on it. And I really loved like when we used to go in there, they had guides and sort of like sections of the rule book that were just dedicated to taking some styrofoam and some empty cups, like empty plastic containers, and like wash. Like it's like the whole art attack thing where it's like you take a bunch of junk and just turn it into something. You know, it's all just like cheap art supplies, and yeah, you used to be able to do that, and they used to incentivize you to do that. They had a very famous picture of it was a deodorant stick, like the container for that, and they turned it into a land speeder just by whacking a few little bits on top and spraying it grey. It's just like, so they don't like to try and say, hey, look, there are other things you can do. They kind of try and want you to buy their plastic like terrain and stuff. It's like,
Yeah,
say,
like they've been pushing to have people buy their product rather than come up with their own stuff. I think personally it would help draw in a lot more people if they were a little more welcoming about do whatever you want, but here's the high quality stuff we sell.
yeah, yeah. I think that they try and push it to the back now. So just to answer a couple of questions in the chat there, um, from Joe Star. Well, how often do you make mistakes? All of the time. Um, quite literally
Yep.
yesterday on my Facebook, I posted that I knocked over my ink paint. I've gone years without spilling Nuln oil, and I've now done the meme, and I've spilt my Nuln oil.
Ah, that
So
sucks.
yeah, so now I need to go and get some more of that stuff. Um, the other one there, wait, how they know? Wait, they know now no longer allow custom made stuff. Um, there was a period of time where Games Workshop was funny about you using sort of like third party paints. They're still, as far as I'm aware, pretty funny about you using 3D printed or custom like stuff that's outside of their range. So if you're using sort of like Games Workshop kits for models, so like if you could do a kit bash of just like having a bunch of multiple stuff, or you create something out of green stuff, or you like model your own sort of like little flares to the models, that's different. But if you're kind of using another company's bits, they tend to be a bit funny about it, and it does really depend on where you go. Some stores are, more lenient than others, but tournaments, like I said, they've backed down on the whole paint thing, but I think there's still pretty hard line on just the models themselves must be Games Workshop in some way.
I can sort of understand that for like a tournament setting, like an officially sanctioned Games Workshop tournament. They definitely just want to sell their product, so it makes sense to have it only Games Workshop product. But for like their stores letting people just play games in there, I don't think that should be an issue for them. Because
No,
like
it
a
really
lot of
shouldn't be.
it's a lot cheaper for some people to print the 3D printed stuff. But I would actually bet that a lot of people that do the 3D printed stuff, they're only doing it as an interim because they can't currently afford the Games Workshop models, despite the fact that they do want them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like a poor hammer, as I think people call it, where it's
Yeah.
just like you just get whatever and just kind of substitute it in. And yeah, I'm fine with that kind of stuff, because it's just one of those things. Sometimes the investment into Warhammer is ridiculous. There's just a ridiculous amount of like upfront kind of like financial costs to get into like a 2,000 point army. So I could completely understand it when I've been at games and people have gone, look, I've got some Death Guard, but I also have some just regular Marines, and I just want to just say that these are Death Guard as well, and this is a specific model, and this is a specific model, and I just go, yeah, okay, that's fine, because there's no point in sort of like being like, oh man, you've ruined my immersion by not having the exact models. Um, so yeah, to me, it's just like, well, yeah, it's fine. I could understand that. It is what it is. I've done it before. I've just been like, well, I don't have the specific tank, so here's another one that I have because I can't be bothered to buy a second one to model it with with a different gun loadout or something. Yeah, it's just easier.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I think the last model I bought was a chaplain, a Primaris chaplain.
Yeah.
I should just quickly grab it. Like I think it was 65. 1 second.
The Inquisition doesn't check your paints anymore. It is good.
Oh, not
Although I
just
wish
any
they.
chaplain. I got. Oh, I don't have my headphones in. Sorry.
That's all right. No, I was just responding to the chat. I was about to say it would be nice if the Inquisitors did check the paints every once in a while, because I've got two uh, fairly new white paints from Games Workshop that are completely destroyed because their quality control is not so good on the paint.
Yeah, the Inquisitor should be checking the production line, not every individual's model that is just happening to play a game at their store.
Yeah, that's precisely right.
But yeah, I
Uh,
bought
cool.
Captain Grimaldus and his retinue, which is a total of
Ooh,
4 models, and it came out to $65 Canadian. So yeah, it's not exactly a cheap hobby.
no, for sure. It's definitely quite an expense. But yeah, that's a cool model, the new Captain Grimaldus one.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to putting it together. I haven't yet. Honestly, I'm probably going to stream it in the future.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, there is quite an audience for sort of like putting that kind of stuff together and painting them and things. I used to do streams on 40k a few years back, but I paint way too slow, put stuff together way too slow, so it's always a little bit anticlimactic, I think, for my viewers, where it's just like hours of me just kind of painting one guy, because I take forever. Um,
I
but
think there
yeah,
are people that would be here for it, kind of thing. Like you have some nice lo-fi music or whatnot while you're painting, or you could have like a longer video that you're reacting to, kind of thing, as you're painting. That's
yeah,
that's actually been helpful for my game, not gaming streams, my model building streams, because I've built some. Yep. Yeah, I've built some Gundams, and I've also built some Digimon models on stream. And having those videos to watch along with, to respond to, kind of thing, as I'm putting stuff together, it
hmm.
really helps viewer retention.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's just to comment on that last part what you said about the lo-fi. It'd be lo-fi beats to purge and burn to. But yeah, it does help when you've got something to sort of retain the audience's attention, because I'm pretty bad at this as well. I have a very low attention span. So when it comes to stuff like trying to keep audience retention in there, I can see the appeal of just having something that you're doing alongside it. It's like that whole was it the commentary community using gameplay footage while they talk about something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or like Joestar says, having Subway Surfer on screen, or having that
Yeah.
kinetic sand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We need one corner to have kinetic sand, one corner will have Subway Surfers, the other one will have some CS:GO footage, and then the last corner has to have Family Guy Funny Moments compilation volume 32, just on repeat. And then we have it perfect. We can get all of the zoomers in.
I should set that to my stream background. Is there any other real questions you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, I thought because your initial video there was the criticisms of the 40 lessons to take away from Warhammer 40k. I thought it might be fun to end on sort of what we would take away from 40k, what the actual 40 lessons should be. Although probably don't do 40, so I'll probably run
It,
out of.
it might be tricky to do 40 off the top of my head. Hmm.
No, but if you could think of any that you would substitute in, because I could definitely think of a few. For
Let's
instance, I
see.
would say I would say one lesson that we take away from sort of like the Descent of Angels book is to beware that kind of path of the warrior. There's a there's a lot of lessons in there where they're trying to teach them that being just going out and killing things is not the whole point of a knight, and that actually there's a lot more to it. You're supposed to be a protector of the people, sort of like a guide, both spiritually and kind of through life, just to try and make sure people don't starve. You're protecting them from all threats, but being the boys that they are in that book, they just kind of ignore all of that and go, yay, killing.
Yeah, they love to get into their wacky situations. I think for me, the big lesson to take away from 40K would be the world is dark and fucked up, so be there for each other. People are way more productive, way more what's the term? I forget the term, but when people work together, great things can be accomplished, and so often people just kind of forget about that, or they don't want to admit that kind of thing. They just want to stay in their own lane, like being they want to be the space marine that can take down a planet when it usually takes at least a squad to take out a planet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a team effort, and you got to be a team player. It's like I always point when people say about that kind of stuff. It's that old story of the Tower of Babel. You know, the whole idea that humanity had the ability to work together towards ends that made the gods themselves fear them. And then, because of that, they were cast down, divided amongst themselves to fight between each other forever, so that they would never bother the gods again. And I always think about that, and I always say it when people go, "I don't know why we have to work as a team." Well, it's because we're always better as a team. We're always better when we're working towards the same goal.
Yeah, like unironically, that the Tower of Babel story, when people work together, gods fear us.
Exactly, and it's the best kind of message, especially within the universe of 40k, where gods are everywhere, from the warp to stored in Traz in the Infinite's little Pokeball thing.
I I need to find out more about Trazin because I've only heard a bit about his stories, but he seems so amazing.
Oh, you absolutely should, because I'm halfway through the novel now on Audible. Um, the Infinite and the Divine is a story of Traz and the Infinite collecting all of these goods and trinkets, and preserving history as accurately as he can, meticulously, and Orikin the Diviner, who looks to the future, wants to transcend his metallic form and evolve Necrons beyond the need for flesh. And he looks to the future. He's a predictor of the future, although he doesn't like being called that. But the story itself of these two insufferable douchebags is so funny because they're just complete opposites, trying to work towards the same goal. I can't spoil anything because it's hilarious, but there's just bits in it where I've gone, wait a minute, and I've just started laughing uncontrollably because they just do ridiculous stuff that only Necrons could do. You know, they get up to ridiculous sort of things, and it really does remind me of those, the two grumpy sort of old guys in the like the Muppets or whatever, the two dudes on
Oh
the
yeah,
Babel.
the two critics.
Yeah, they're just constantly making sarcastic jibes and trying to one up each other and all this stuff. It's just so funny, in a way that I didn't think 40k really had any sense of humor in there too much, but
Okay,
you
I absolutely need
brilliant.
to read The Infinite and the Divine then.
It's brilliant, especially like the depictions where they're talking about orcs and stuff as well. It's just like, oh, perfect. Just just the insight into all of it is just perfect. But yeah, I think that wraps up a lot of questions and things I had. Did you have any questions at all for me?
Um, not terribly. The kind of stuff that I would have had questions for, we kind of had our back and forth about it. So I we kind of answered my questions just throughout our conversation.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. But no, it's been great. So I'll jump off and let you continue on with your stream. But it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
It has been a very enjoyable conversation. And please, before you go, remind everybody in chat who you are.
I am Jim of Jim's Tabletop Wargaming, and you can find my channel over there at Jim's Tabletop Wargaming.
Joestar does have a question. How
Oh,
much did
sure.
you spend on models?
Oh dear. Um, well, let's just say I had I had about 6 grand in my savings, 6 grand UK. I now have £40. I'll let that sink in. But yeah, too much money. Too much money.
I'm trying to calculate how much I've spent. I want to say less than 1,000. Granted, I've also been building it up over multiple years of like, oh, I can drop $40 right now. Oh, I can drop $60 right now. Oh, I can drop $50 right now. And it's just like my Black Templar is, I don't even think it's 1,000 points for a game, but it's the kind of thing that I've just been slowly building at rather than trying to have the entire army one ready to go.
Oh no, absolutely. I think it's the slow burn of the collection that ends up getting you, because I couldn't spend that kind of money all in one hit. But
Oh,
it's when
absolutely not.
it's the kind of like for me it was the eBay purchases. I think there was a little bit of time where occasionally Games Workshop releases these like books through Hatchet Paperworks where you can collect like a set of models over a series of these like magazines. And in some cases, it's not great value for money, but in a lot of cases, there'll be a model that you can straight up get for like, like £5 or £6 or something. Well, I think it was £8 actually. Um, and it will be like a 40 quid model or something like that. And you're just like, oh God, it'd be crazy not to get those. And quite a few of them ended up on eBay. Um, and they were
Wow.
just kind of like splitting the difference just to make a little bit of profit, but also undercut everybody else. And I remember I went on there and was just like, oh my God, there's all this like Necron stuff that's like ridiculous money to get. And I ended up just buying a load, and I've got like probably like 3k points of Necrons sat on the shelf ready to get sprayed with some metallic paint just so I can use them. But it's just yeah, it builds up. I see like a bargain or something, I'm just like, yeah, I'm grabbing that. And I look at it and go, oh God, I've got boxes and boxes of unused plastic now.
That's the best way to go, honestly, to maximize how much you can efficiently spend on a thing.
Remember, kids, if you're spending money on model kits, you don't have money for drugs.
Me, who has money for both. I
Lucky for
kid.
some.
I spend more money on drugs. By drugs,
Oh,
I
that's
mean
fine.
weed. We're all good here.
Oh, that's fine. I can't say that here because it's illegal here.
Oh, that's unfortunate. It's legal here in Canada.
No, I
Literally
just
can
don't.
walk into a store and buy it.
Yeah, I wish for those days, but unfortunately now I think the only place it's legal is for treating cancer and epilepsy. I think are the only two things I think you can use it for at the moment.
Fair enough, fair enough. I remember being stuck in those days.
Yeah, hopefully one day soon, although probably not. Don't know if you know anything about UK politics, but the UK does not look like it's in a good place right now.
I can always hope despite knowing what situation you're in.
But yeah, on that bombshell, I'll leave you to it. Have a good one, and thanks for having me on.
Take care and thanks for joining.
No worries. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Okay, that was a solid chat. I really liked talking with that person. That was a good one. Okay, I'm gonna quickly run to the bathroom and then I can jump in on talking about about some of the Twitter stuff. I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna get into all of it, but BRB real quick. Okay. I have returned. I'm still debating what I actually want to talk about with the Twitter stuff. I got a couple things. Fat shaming was going around. Bit of an older post, but somebody got mad about wheelchairs in fantasy settings. Thank you, hero. And then another one is about people with unrealistic expectations with their streamers. So that one is a retread, sort of like I've talked about it before. I've talked about the kind of situation before. Yeah, I saw the bow tweets. Honestly, a lot of my timeline lately has become more and more Digimon fan art, and I am so here for it because I'm getting tired of VTuber drama. Oh boy. I think it was Bao and Kenji. Huh, couple sneezes. To be honest, I don't want to do like another 4 or 6 hour stream. I kind of want to do a shorter stream because I want to play Dragon's Dogma. Ah, Nose wants to sneeze.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Maxi Kitty super chatted $10. $10 from Maxi Kitty. This is a reminder to get yourself a burger later.
Thank you very much, Maxi. I will definitely get myself a Berber later. Oh, man. How's the performance on Dragon's Dogma 2? I had to drop it to like low settings and then go a little lower, and it runs okay, mostly smooth, but when I start getting into like towns and stuff, that's when it starts to lag a little bit. But it's not the worst. God, I love that alert. Dragon's microtransactions, you mean? Yeah, that one. Oh yeah, I would really like a Berber right now. That would be so great. But I'm gonna wait until after stream. Honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna go for more than like another hour or so. Maxi's so excited about the Berber. Loves him so much. So, where do I want to start? Oh, I 100% will. Uh, How long ago did I make that segment about dating your streamer? You literally put a Berber on the on Maxie's head. Nice. Oh, that was like a month ago. So, do we want to talk about... Yeah, it was like a month ago. So, do we want to talk about... What is it? Do we want to talk about dating your streamer? Do we want to talk about wheelchairs and D&D? Or do we want to talk about fat shaming toggles? I know I didn't stream for 2 weeks. I was off at a furry con. Joe's voting for dating the streamer. Oh, that's 2. So I guess we'll do that one. It's none of these segments are going to be long segments, so to speak. PC glitch, and gotta go. It's modeling, trying to get a picture of my new model. Oh, fair. Do what you gotta do, Maxie. Thanks for stopping by, and thank you again for the $10. I'm gonna get like a double burger. Excuse me. So about a month ago, I put out a video talking about titled "Some Viewers Have Wild Expectations," and this is going to be largely in the same vein. Holy shit, some people have wild expectations. Now, I will be fully transparent. I have no idea who these 2 VTubers I'm going to be talking about are. Largely, I'm more interested in talking about the broader issue of letting yourself fall into that parasocial relationship where you genuinely think you might have a chance with a streamer that you haven't really had any interactions with outside of their content. So, without further ado, BoxMac Official put out a tweet. To clarify, Miss Pookie and I are just friends who enjoy collaborating to create entertaining content. Please refrain from jumping to conclusions or engaging in behavior that feels inappropriate on multiple levels. This email had me speechless. And they blocked the email, understandably why. Email reads, "Hey Mac, I had to unfollow you everywhere because I thought you were single. I didn't know you and Miss Pookie were dating. I thought I had a chance with you and was hoping we could get close and maybe even together someday. It's really tough for me to know that you're with someone else, and I think a lot of people would understand where I'm coming from. Personally, I don't understand because I'm the kind of person that would want to actually have conversations with people rather than just assuming you're gonna match up in terms of dating. I do like this picture he added after that. Hey, welcome back, Maxie. Just the angry, woken up in the middle of the night face to that goddamn email. Yeah, like I haven't gotten emails myself like this. it would be pretty goddamn weird, especially if it's somebody that was like in my chat a lot, but then that's the only place where we talk, so to speak, like the only place where we engage. I just hope that people understand that I'm not available to date, so I hope they don't have those expectations of me. I also think, like, it is possible to have a relationship with the streamer you like. It is extremely unlikely, though. It is not something you should hedge your bets on. You'd have more success. Excuse me. You'd have more success if you just. I'm all burpy today. You'd have more success if you talked with people and just built those communicational skills. Like, not even talking to people with the explicit intention to date them, just get comfortable conversing with others. That makes that really helps. Like, a lot of the time people can tell when there's fake confidence being used, and then there's some people that fake that confidence through jokes, like I used to. And then, like, over time I actually got used to it, so to speak. The fake it till you make it worked for me, but it won't necessarily work for everybody. Gotta be friends before being girlfriends and boyfriends. People miss that. Oh yeah, absolutely. It usually really helps to have that start off with where you actually get to know each other a little bit before diving headfirst into a relationship. I feel like there was something else I was going to add to this, but I forget. I don't know. I guess the main takeaway from this is, so you're telling me there's a chance, Mac. For real though, most people are, to my understanding, to the other creators I have talked with, they don't really want to date chatters. They don't really want to engage with that. I do know a handful of creators that would most definitely sleep with their chatters, but I don't think they're trying to get any relationship out of it, kind of thing. It's just, I mean, I totally get that. Sex feels fun. It's great. There's no real issue with that for me. It does have that weird power dynamic that you gotta kind of worry about. Try to help people, but I'm starting to realize that I don't have the energy for that many friends. That's totally fair. It's different per person. Like, some people gain energy from socializing with people. Like, for me, I actually recharge my batteries by hanging out and talking with my IRL friends. It makes a big difference. And then some people want to spend that time with their friends, but they can only spend so much of their time with their friends before they need some alone time to recharge their batteries. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how people are. Like that one guy who got lucky with Aurora. That was so funny. Oh my god. The slow burn it took for them to realize. Well, I would say that I don't think Aurora didn't know that was a fan when she was sleeping with them or when she was hooking up with them, because I don't actually know the full details besides mouth stuff. Gotham, you're in my way. But like it just ended up, it happened to end up that this person was sleeping with a VTuber thing. Oh, that was funny, and I'm glad it ended well. Like there was no big issue out of that kind of thing. It's just a funny story, but you do got to remember that going into that situation, you can have very bad outcomes. Hey, they're playing. You can have very bad outcomes to that. So, I don't know. Open dialogue, that's the most important thing. Communicate with people. Get to understand what they're okay with, what they're not okay with. And honestly, if it's a lot of the time better to just be direct with your wording. And yeah, because like it's much better to be shot down with just your questions. It's a different thing to be shot down by actions. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. Get people's consent before you touch them. That was a big lesson of last week's stream. I think about wraps up this segment. I'm not sure what else I want to dive into. Maxi, largely what I'm talking about, VTuber scene kind of thing, and it's Twitter, and Twitter is horrible. Honestly, I think part of me is thinking it's getting worse than 4chan at this point. Berber tier list. Maybe might do one of those in the future. I don't know. I would need convincing, to be honest. But yeah, I think that segment's wrapped up. I should definitely have breakfast. Okay, do we want to talk about people with disability in fantasy settings or fat shaming? How many segments do I have? Saw the image of the wheelchair D&D model. Yeah, it's like a 2D image. Oh yeah, it's pixel art, the one that I'm talking about. Wait, there's an actual resin 3D wheelchair adventurer model? That's awesome. Unironically, it is. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That does kind of happen more than it should.
Obama.
Oh, what the hell was that? Oh, thank you, Joe, Jim. I forget what my alerts do because they pop up so infrequently. Okay, let's talk about fantasy. That was quite delayed. Yeah, it's usually delayed. So there was a tweet that was put out March 16th. I don't know if this account was the original one that made it, because it is a meme account about D&D memes called Memes Lich. Yeah, Memes Lich. Anyways, they put out a post that got 22 million views, 20,000 likes. It was a pretty good picture. It's a pretty good picture. I think this art is really nicely done. It looks pretty sweet, and the text reads, accepting the existence of magic in a fantasy setting should not be easier than accepting the existence of disabled people in a fantasy setting, which I personally agree with. It's harder for me to wrap my head around magic than it is to wrap my head around people not people having disabilities, because like they exist. They're people. And well, there was one account that quoted this this tweet here that got they got dragged a bit. They got a little more traction. This stateless sovereign account put out, it literally makes no sense to have disabled people in a fantasy setting. It makes no sense to have magic, dude. Okay, number one, why can't disabled person cast a spell on their broken legs that fixes them instantly so they can walk again? What if their legs don't work because of a magical curse or hex or something, and they don't have the skill or know anybody that can fix it? It's magic. It can be whatever. Number two, if the mage's lower body is paralyzed rather than physically broken, then why can't they remove the paralysis using magic? Magic isn't necessarily a... I'll say this. If you use magic as the whimsical solves everything, you're boring. We need conflict for a story to be interesting, to have a story have weight, to have it have meaning, kind of thing. So just solving everything by using magic really makes it boring to me. Number three, why can't the mage cast a spell on themselves which allows them to float or fly so they don't have to worry about walking? Why can't they just use Mage Hand to push their wheelchair and then lift their chair up the stairs? What does it literally matter? Number four, why is there a normal looking wheelchair in a medieval-esque high fantasy setting? Shouldn't the wheelchair be made out of crude dwarven technology or replaced with an animal with the saddle attached to it? Well, if you think about it, mages and wizards in these high fantasy settings are typically the most intelligent, or typically the more intelligent people out there, so they can come up with designs. And, well, they can make whatever they want, right? Magic is the cure-all. It's not too far out of the realm of possibility for me to think that somebody adept at using magic could conceive of something like this and then go to an artificer and be like, hey, can you do this? And then they'll be like, fuck yeah, I can. I'm an artificer. Once you have, or they continue, once you have magic in a setting, it makes no sense to have disabilities. The only way you could make this work is if you make the magic extremely rare and difficult to obtain, or make it so that magic is so dangerous and unreliable that it rarely gets used. No. It's if the magic is if it make the magic extremely rare and difficult to obtain, not necessary. Like, I can sort of see that one, but not necessarily. It really doesn't matter. It's fantasy. Personally, I find this drama to be silly. It's imagination. I know D&D has rules and lore and whatnot, but like that shouldn't exclude handicapped people in the world. Like, why can't I make why can't I make a handicapped wizard who likes to do drifts in his wheelchair? Yeah, like, from what I've gathered, this boils down to I don't like seeing people with disabilities. Which, okay. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm already biased against this person, like, a lot, because of a few things. You can see their @ sign is Confederacy, which, if you know, you know, and I do not like it. They are also pro-fiction, pro-life. I don't know, a Copperhead. I don't even want to click on what my ideology is. In other words, you would have to heavily tone down the fantasy in high fantasy, which kind of defeats the purpose. A low magic fantasy setting can work, but it requires good writing to make it interesting. I would say everything requires good writing to make it interesting. If you're not interested in seeing stories about people with disabilities, you don't gotta see them. If you want to have fantasy Iron Man armor because it's fucking cool, you can. It's fantasy. You can do whatever you fucking want. And apparently this person just doesn't want to see any sort of wheelchair in the fantasy. It is Twitter, so I'm going to take a sec. I'm going to swap off before I scroll down. There was something that... Right. Let's take a reminder that there has never been people with disabilities in high fantasy settings before. It's never happened, has it? For real. They can do whatever. Like, this fucking episode of Avatar. Anybody remember this one? It was actually really sweet. Fucking Aang finally finds people that also know how, or that also seem to be flying like he is. And it turns out one of the best ones couldn't use their legs. Honestly, this was a great episode. But it's too bad that disabled people or people with disabilities don't exist outside of the real world, huh? That is totally fair, Maxie. I am the type that is okay with getting controversial. But yeah, there's a lot of people just dunking on them, pointing out those different types of characters. But I mean, there's also a lot of people that agree with that sentiment. Like, that original meme post got 20,000 likes. This makes no sense to have people with disabilities in a fantasy setting got 30,000 likes, so it's disappointing. But hey, what can you do? Can't really stop people from thinking the stupid shit they believe, but oh well. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add on top of that one. Sent me the meme wheelchair with Build-A-Bear. Okay, yeah. Oh, of course, it also has that iFunny logo. Not showing the text because it's just rude, but yeah, there's literal minifigures done by D&D, Wizards of the Coast. They got wheelchairs. I know, right, Natalie? How dare they use their imagination with this fantasy setting? Like, it's not that big of a stretch that people want to see themselves in the media they're consuming. It helps you get attached to it. You know, this makes me wonder if something as silly as Berber could become controversial and somehow people start yelling at me because I'm saying Berber. I'll give it time. The internet's a shitty place. Like there should be no reason to get mad at Berber itself. Then again, there should be no reason to be mad at Steve from Blue's Clues, yet popularity breeds contempt. Okay, I think we're going to get into the last segment because I want to get back to Dragon's Dogma. I don't know if I'm going to make it into a segment, but they got new milk coming out. I'm here for it. You guys hear this? I don't know if it's real or true, but they're selling blue milk, going to be released on April 17th. Make sure to stock up on it before May, so you have your blue milk for May the 4th. Oh, right, May the 4th. My local theaters are, I don't know if every theater is going to be doing it, but they are going to be doing like a movie marathon of the entire Skywalker saga, the prequels, originals, and the sequels. Maxie, you're confused. There are a couple scenes in different Star Wars, particularly Luke. In the originals, he was it's literally just blue milk. It is not lewd. It's literally from the original movie, A New Hope, where Luke pours himself a cup of milk and it's just blue. And then later in the sequel trilogies, I want to say it was Force Awakens, Last Jedi. Yeah, it was in Last Jedi where Luke again drinks blue milk. And it's just kind of like a meme within the Star Wars fandom, that blue milk. Not nerd enough to ever notice that. You are better than all of us. I just think it's kind of funny. But unironically, I do know that my local theaters are going to be playing all 9 films for May the 4th. And I really want to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters. That would be great. White milk doesn't exist in Star Wars. Okay. Are we ready to... We ready to get into the last segment? Not exactly going to be a fun time, but it's something I think needs to be talked about. It's nothing as horrible as I usually cover. It's just fat shaming. Gotta get my sippies in. So recently there was what's up, Maxie? I would absolutely love it if you did a model for me. I just know you've been fairly busy and I don't like to ask people for free labor. But I mean, I've seen your skills. I definitely want a model from you. Okay, I think it's time we get into this last little segment. So just yesterday, on March 22nd, there was a tweet that was put out bringing attention to something that I think is fairly important. You guys know Bao, the VTuber? She's a whale, got blue hair, pretty cute model. I've covered her on this, or I've covered some stuff from her on this channel before. I know she's gotten dragged on Twitter for her jokes about what was the name of that submarine? The one that couldn't take the pressure. I totally forget. Hey, Gotham. But, anyways, Bao has been Ocean Gate, yeah. I've talked about Bao before, definitely. I personally know of her. I don't know her directly. Oh. Wow, I didn't realize that connection was so bad. Anyways. Yeah, Bao seems to like her edgy jokes. I personally I laughed at the submarine joke at the time. But this one, not really my cup of tea. It's kind of low-hanging fruit. It's boring humor to me. Now, I do believe this. We're talking about fat shaming, just to get that out of there. If this isn't your type of cup of tea you want to engage with, click off now, I guess. Aside from that, I saw this tweet pop up on my timeline. More than a handful of people that I knew had been making statements on it, giving their piece, and I'm gonna be real, there's more than a handful of people that I know that are the same kind of body type, and hasn't exactly been well received by a lot of people that I like. personally, I don't think this isn't that funny to me. It doesn't make much sense. Anyways, Ever So Lily here put out the tweet. Bao, I know it's not just you. Apparently it has been a few people. Whether this is a joke or not, please understand how hurtful this can be to plus-sized kings and queens in the community. I will probably get a lot of shit for this from your community, but you should understand how hurtful this is and how not okay this is. Which, from what I have heard, this is supposed to be like a blueberry toggle, Willy Wonka kind of thing. At least that's how it started off. But there were things, there was a clip. Jaws here said, someone said it was a blueberry toggle and I almost bought that. But in the debut of the toggle, she sings a version of Bowifornia Girls. The song says a lot of not good things. This shows it goes beyond the toggle, plus her other video is even worse. Now, I don't know if there's another video in relation to this. This was the only one that I really saw. Yeah, like when they were announcing it, oh, right here in the title, you can see Blueberry debut. It's also, I also heard that it was like a joke on the inflation kink that people have, and not my thing, but I'm not going to fat shame. Anyways, let's get ready to hear. She's got a nice singing voice. It's just a shame it's used in this context right now.
Wide, it can't be told. These are the girls I love the most. I mean the ones, like she's a ton. Feed her, breed her, squeeze her buns. She blocks the sun, she fills the streets. A whale's been beached, I'm obese, need to feast. At the buffet, now I'm at Chick-fil-A.
And here's the music video.
You could let mother world, but nothing comes close to my big fat ball.
What is that?
Once you
What
dive in
is
with
that?
us,
There's
you'll be growing a chub.
I can't help.
California girls, we're so insatiable. Heart disease, bikinis popped off.
Hey, yo.
Full chin so hot, we'll sport your
What are
organs.
yeah, that's,
Wide, it can't be.
you don't need to play that again. Yeah, so that definitely, it goes beyond just a simple inflation joke or a blueberry joke or anything. That was just a lot of, the butt of the joke is fat people exist. How do people find that funny? Actually, I do know how people find that funny. A lot of people are stuck in immature mindsets. They love their low-hanging fruit. They love their unoriginal jokes. It's literally just fat people exist, and that's funny. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of analysis I can provide to this. It's just pretty goddamn disappointing, honestly. Because, like, I personally had an impression of Bao that she was, like, I didn't think she was the furthest left or most liberal type person, but I didn't think she would find such low-hanging fruit funny. It's just, it's boring to me. You can make joke, in my opinion, you can make jokes about goddamn near anything as long as you're not punching down with them. Like, I will say, I've had my own share of edgy jokes, controversial jokes, but I can tell you what the joke is about, rather than just being like, I don't know, funny. Because I'm the type of person that actually likes to put thought into my jokes. I want to make people laugh, and especially if I can get them to think a little bit. And there is no thought being put into any of those jokes. It's just fat people exist, and that's funny to them. I just don't get it. It's a shame. I mean, I'm not going to chastise anybody that continues to watch Bao, but I don't know if I'm personally going to be tuning in much more. I've caught the occasional stream of hers. She's been all right. And I'm not even coming at this from a place of being like I've got a bit of a chubbier body type, but I also don't feel personally attacked by it. I don't know. Where else can we go with this? It's just, yeah, there's not a lot of analysis I can really do because it's all surface level. Yeah. I'm drawing a blank. Anybody have anything else they'd want to add to the conversation? It's not that they exist. It's more like shaming an alcoholic for drinking and them getting mad you called them a drunk. What do you think of Weird Al's fat parody? That is a good question. It has been a while since I watched it. But yeah, Natalie, I see where you're coming from with that. It is a little different to that, but essentially, I would say, yeah, you're on point. With plus-sized people, it's not necessarily always a addiction to food, so to speak. For some people, I think it was PCOS. Don't ask me what that acronym stands for. Where there is a condition where people just keep putting on the weight. There's nothing they can do about the condition, and they can't really get rid of that weight. So yeah, it's a bit more grayer, so to speak, than having an addiction to stuff. But then there are people that do get addicted to that, like get addicted to sugar, so to speak. And I can kind of see that, yeah. I think some people on Twitter are taking this a bit too far. Like, people are literally harassing others for just voicing their opinion and going against fat shaming. That's a very small percentage. Yeah, fair enough. Joe, yeah, everybody. That's like the point of Twitter, where people take things too far. Oh, it's so sad that that's the current state of affairs. I'm hardly on that site anymore. I'm occasionally checking things out, but I've definitely been spending less and less time on Twitter. It's mostly just there for me to get the mostly to get content for my streams. I wish this energy was used to deplatform Pippa the Nazi, to be honest. Yeah. I don't think you've covered the Kenji part of the story. I don't really know anything about what Kenji was getting up to, aside from he has a model that looks like that's a reference to the South Park World of Warcraft episode. Oh, it's a good thing I'm not sharing screens. I saw one of my favorite artists in case, and well, they don't post censored stuff to Twitter. I also don't think I bookmarked the Kenji stuff. I haven't seen any clips of Kenji making the fat joke spouted. Honestly, from what I've heard, Kenji is more liberal than Bao. At least the impression that I got. I can't make any definitive statement. I just know a lot of people are up in arms and upset about this. But circling back, because I've been mulling it over a bit, circling back to the what do I think about Weird Al's fat? Honestly, thinking about it, it's not really, it doesn't seem like it's punching down. It's all about the character that Al is playing owning the fact that he's plus size. He's being positive about it rather than just punching down, so to speak. He definitely does make some edgier jokes with that song, but largely I think the takeaway from the entire thing is fat is cool kind of thing. I think it's super unfair to lump Kenji in this all, to be honest. Again, I really don't know much about the Kenji stuff. I thought I just saw a tweet about talking about it because I am scrolling Twitter right now. But then you know what Twitter likes to do, where it updates and then jumps you to the top of the screen, and then you've lost that tweet. Yeah, gone forever. Yeah, like I haven't, excuse me, I haven't seen any clips from Kenji going around. I've just seen one picture of him, and it's literally, it literally looks like he who has no life or whatever. The big bad from the South Park World of Warcraft episode. If all it is the model, then yeah, it's PP situation at this point. For Kenji, yeah. For Bao, I can see different things. Yeah, for Kenji, I don't really know what he did wrong. But with Bao, I can see where people's criticisms are coming from. People on the internet be wildin'. That's just, sadly, that's how it goes. And I just be commenting on stuff that pop up. Yeah, I'll be real. I've seen more of Bao's stuff than I have of Kenji's stuff. But what I have seen of Kenji, I found him funny. I'm just terrible at taking the time to actually watch streams. I would think Kenji puts stuff on YouTube. Oh yeah, he's pretty big on YouTube. 600,000. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people just get mad about. I can understand where people are coming from. But there is definitely a conversation to be had about the way we treat people who have perceivably done wrong. Like, especially on Twitter, people will just dogpile and dogpile and dogpile and dogpile. And it's not exact excuse me, it's not exactly something that is like an easy fix either. Yeah, I think that about wraps up everything. There is always more. Oh my god, I fucking agree with this tweet. It's like that's the purpose of Twitter anymore. It's just to dogpile people with shit takes kind of thing. He's got 1.5 million. That's so depressing. Okay, maybe next stream, or when I actually start, maybe next weekend, because my next stream is actually going to be a debate on Tuesday. But maybe next weekend I'll do some more React content, because there's something I want to go over with. The quartering, apparently Pokemon gets woke. That'll be fun. But I definitely want to find the... I want to find the clip of Quartering drunkenly peeing in his basement because I don't respect him and I think it's fucking hilarious. Debate on what? I'm gonna be debating Lolicon. Cause there was a Twitter space. There was a Twitter space that was like an open conversation It went on for like 8 hours. I didn't even bother tuning into it, but I saw some post clips, like some clips afterwards. And, well, I reached out to one of the people with their disagreeable take, and they've agreed to debate me on Tuesday. We're going to do that. Pokemon gets woke. They just now learning that. Yeah, it's the quartering. Thank you, Nessie. Oh, Rev is smart enough to not debate people on this. But for now, though, I think I'm gonna go play some Dragon's Dogma. Plus, I gotta get a Berber because I've been peer pressured into it with super chat. So I have no choice. I must. Thank you all for joining me. It has been a fun, albeit shorter stream than I usually do. Take care, and I'll hopefully see you next time. And hopefully my mouth tracking will be a little better. Take care and see y'all later. Remember, if you can't be the sharpest tool in the shed, you can always be the hoe. I love